Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, theys and thems, welcome back to another episode of the Double Kick Podcast. Double the kick, double the games, double the friends we make along the way. I am just one of your cohorts for this evening, afternoon. We're actually recording kind of like in the morning, like afternoon time, so this is a little strange for me. Terry Thompson, and I am joined as ever by the immaculate, the beautiful, the full head of hair, Dan Hoy. Dan, how's it going?
It's good. Hey, friends. Hey, everyone. Hey, listeners. It's nice to see you during the day, Terry. It's nice to see the sunlight shining on your face.
Right?
Now I know what you look like, so this is real nice.
Are you surprised?
Yeah, no surprises. This is exactly how I dreamt your face to look like. Very put together, very
Thanks, man.
handsome, very clean.
Thank you. The beard is finally starting to connect. It's a little patchy still in some places, but
Yeah.
it only took almost 30 years.
It's about the journey, Terry.
It
If
is.
it's a 30-year journey to make it look like this, I'd say that's worth it.
Thanks, man. That's oh my God, thank you so much. Does your mustache connect to your beard, or are you
I don't.
separated?
I don't think so. I think it's separated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think I've ever grown it enough to see if it connects.
Yeah.
But there's a patch of smooth skin where the beard would connect with the ends of the mustache. So I have a feeling they don't connect, but hey, I could try.
I could try. I have like on the left side of my face, underneath the left lip of my mustache, it tries to connect, and that's where it makes the most effort. But on the right side, there's no effort at all. So
Okay.
like it's
That would be interesting. A new trend.
right, like just one lip in it, one lip.
Yeah. Actually I have black hair, but I have like little strands of red hair that come here and there.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly by my chin.
Okay.
And so it's interesting to see when I do grow it out, these like chromatic patches, right? Just here and there. But again, I haven't grown it out enough to really see what it would look like all out.
Absolutely. Maybe you got some Irish in the heritage back there or something.
I highly doubt it, but it'd be interesting to think about.
Somewhere down the line, it just intrusively entered in. Dan, how have you? It's been a while since we recorded. I started my new job, so we were supposed to record last weekend, I think, but I pushed it back because the new schedule. I'm getting more adjusted
Sure.
to it. But
Yeah,
how have you been?
I've been pretty good. What is it? We're in the middle of November, believe it or not. It is like 65 degrees outside.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like November. Thanksgiving is around the corner, right? So I'm feeling pretty happy now that we're in this part of the year. Fall is my favorite season. But it also comes at a cost with all the chaos that comes with the holidays, right?
Right.
But no, for the most part, things have been pretty status quo. We're hanging in there, making strides here and there, and family work stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
yeah. What about you? I know you started work last time we saw each other. We were at a hotel room recording
Oh, yeah, that's
right
right.
before a wedding, which was great. But catch me up to speed. What have you been up to?
I've been good. Yeah, the last time we met up, we were recording in a hotel room. The audio quality didn't come out as good as we thought, but I'm probably going to release that episode along with this one, just as we did it and whatever we're learning and all that stuff. But I'm good. I've started a new IT job at a place that I'm really enjoying. And as like kind of alluded to, I'm trying to get used to that schedule and the new job and all that and the responsibilities that entail with that. So the video game playing hasn't been put on the back burner, but it's definitely I'm trying to find different spaces in my life or in my time period that can fit into.
Right.
So I'm finding it now. And with some of the games that we're going to talk about today, have definitely been filling that time very well. So I'm
Awesome.
excited to jump into it. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
with some of the ones we got coming up.
I mean, it's a balancing act, right? So with any
Yeah.
change, it's a matter of like how do we recalibrate and like try to fit in, our personal time in there. So
Yeah,
that's cool
dude.
to see that it's coming along nicely.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, we do have like a bigger list than usual to go after this episode. So I definitely want to get right into it.
Absolutely.
But I have a question for you.
Oh, oh, snap.
General gaming question.
Okay.
Has there ever been a video game that was too easy for you?
Ooh, too easy.
Yeah. We always talk about like the hard ones and like, grinding it out. But what about like the easy ones?
Sure, sure. That's a great that's a great question. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
think like off the top of my brain, like when you would say too easy, would you say that, easy, too easy to the point where it affects your enjoyment of the game? Like you're not enjoy like you feel like you don't get enough challenge, or too
Um,
easy as is like this could be a casual game that I can throw on and it could be whatever.
I think I think it would be like too easy, as in like you would have wanted it to be a little bit more challenging.
Hmm.
So I guess in that lens, it's like it kind of takes away from the game.
Sure. Do you have anything off the top of your mind?
I
And
do,
then maybe let me give me a second to think.
I do, and I may have mentioned it way at the beginning, but when I was a kid, I would play um, some really easy games on the N64, and one of them was I think it was Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. I don't know if
Okay.
anyone's played that game. Give it a
Okay.
quick YouTube search. It is a terrible, terrible, terrible game.
Hmm.
But it was one of the first that I played on the N64 as a young kid, right? Um, and so, hold this in the same space as you would with a game like Ocarina of Time, right?
Hmm.
It's around the same time I was playing those kinds of games.
Okay.
Um, and so Lightspeed Rescue was a gracious Christmas gift because I did like Power Rangers,
Hmm.
and the game only had like three or four like mini games, and the quality itself. I mean, that aside, it was terrible, but um, it posed no challenge whatsoever.
Sure.
There was not much to play to begin with, so you really only needed one button to do everything in this game, and you would progress, and it was almost like you were playing like a really simple like flash game online on the web.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and so there was no story really. There was no type of progression system. There is nothing. And when you beat a level, it kind of like it would say you played levels 1 through 3. You get to level 4, it's the same setup as level 1 with a little tweak, and it just kept doing that cycle again and again and again. Um, Eventually, you would get like the credit roll, but I don't know why because and it was a longer one, and so who exactly worked on this really short, simple game? Now I get Power Rangers are meant for like kids, right?
Sure.
But I can't see what the value of this game is, even for like kids that are playing it. It was more than just monotonous. It was more than just like mindless. It was kind of annoying how
Yeah.
easy that game was. So that's like the worst case example I could use for this question.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Was this like a so you said Power Rangers, was it Lightspeed something?
Yeah, Lightspeed Rescue.
Lightspeed Rescue. Was it a racing game?
Yeah, that is a great question. It was.
Maybe?
You have to look it up after this. It's just it
Okay.
was insane that they released this game.
Write that down.
It was a first person fighting game. It was like a side
Oh
scrolling
no, one of those.
shooter, and it was almost like this pseudo open world like fight like beat 'em up. So I can't really decide what kind of game this was.
It really does sound like those old, like the Flash games of old on like Newgrounds, where it
Yeah,
turns into like three different games in one.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
super
yeah. And
experimentation.
it just it was. more people played it than I had expected when I looked at
Okay,
this game like a year ago. Um, Mostly to talk about how awful this game was.
sure.
Very simple, super easy. Um, but just like you had mentioned earlier when I asked this question, there are quote unquote easy games that are like casual,
Yeah.
but still hold a lot of entertainment value.
Hmm.
Those games are great, and I don't I don't see those games as too easy. I mean, I think that casual categories is a whole different entity.
Sure, absolutely. And that enlightens a lot of things in my brain. Separating the casual from this is just not stimulating, and there's no challenge here at all.
Right.
So
Right.
that kind of reminds me of a really early SpongeBob game that I played for some reason like a lot as a kid. And I played a lot of the SpongeBob like licensed games because
Yeah.
some of them are like really good, honestly, like
Uh huh.
more good than they have like any right being. But I think it was on PlayStation 1. It was called SpongeBob Super Sponge.
Okay.
And it was either PlayStation 1 or SNES. I can't remember which one, but for some reason, either like I couldn't save the game or I didn't know how to save the game because I was really young.
Okay.
So, if the console got turned off, I had to start all over.
Uh huh.
So I was repeatedly like playing this game over and over again, but I remember there being like absolutely no challenge. It's like it was one of the early like side scroller SpongeBob's.
Yeah.
You have like a net, and you're honestly just jumping on a jellyfish to jump on the next platform, to jump on the
Uh
next thing, to jump on the next thing. And I don't know like why I kept playing it. Probably because I didn't have like much else to play, or that was like the only thing in front of me at the time. But
yeah.
I would get super far in it like every single time because again, it was like pretty simple. And I didn't know how to save. So I was always starting from zero, then getting to the end, zero, getting to the end over and over again. Um, and I was probably should have been doing something better with my time at that age, something more educational or stimulating at the very least. But yeah, so SpongeBob Super Sponge comes to mind. And I remember watching a video recently ranking all the SpongeBob games, and that was definitely near the bottom for a lot of people.
Oh,
For a lot of
man.
people, yeah. But uh,
Uh,
but but that I think that goes great into like what we were talking about because again, there's not stimulating and not great easy games, and then there are like more casual games which I would like compare if we're keeping in the SpongeBob realm. SpongeBob the movie, the game
mhm.
is like one
Okay.
of my favorites. I love that one.
Yeah,
Battle for Bikini Bottom isn't
that
like
was a good one.
that's a great one. Not the
Yeah.
hardest game, but just those like 3D platformers. They could present challenge, of course, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't like it's no Souls like or Souls game.
I think about, I mean, the games that we listed are like the derivatives of like TV shows.
Yeah,
So they don't always translate very well, but
sure.
sometimes they do. I also remember playing like a Jimmy Neutron game on
Yeah,
the GameCube. That was decent.
was that
Uh,
the Battle of the Twonkies or Invasion of the Twonkies or something?
it may have been like Jimmy Neutron the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an earlier one, but yeah, I had fun with that one. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but
Hmm.
it seems like when it's translated from or transcribed from a TV show, it's just like you know trying to rope in the general audience
Yeah.
in the gaming world, right? Just based on familiarity.
Mhm. And
So
it's hit or miss, most of the times they're pretty bad, but, like,
yeah,
you get those gems.
exactly, exactly. So that won't be happening for me anytime soon. I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
like I hear about like even for movies when movies become video games, like that's hit or miss too.
Yeah.
I think I read something about like Mad Max could have been like a lot better of a game. I mean,
Mhm.
but it wasn't a terrible one,
Yeah.
based on the movie. But it also makes me think about like when people reference like the original source material, like
Mhm.
oh, the book was always better, right?
Yeah,
Or the movie
exactly.
was always better for
Uh-huh.
this video game. So you're always going to have those naysayers.
Yeah, absolutely, and you don't see much of those anymore. I think the last one that really, like, comes to mind was the Avatar game that Ubisoft released this year, last year or something. It was, like, a first person, and even that one I don't think was, like, too much based on the movies. I think it was, like, its own kind of thing just in the Avatar universe. But there really was that time, kind of like, Xbox 360, PS3, even maybe a little earlier, that those licensed games were so prevalent. And it's funny, just like, you know, I I bought into a lot of them because I was a kid, and you're like, you see Fairly Odd Parents that you watch as a show, and you're like, I want the video game of that.
Right,
And the
right.
Fairly Odd Parents games were actually pretty good too. Just putting that
Oh,
out there.
cool.
um, but yeah, that's a an interesting thing to think about.
Well, that was some interesting insight for that question. If you feel like you have a follow up for like a response to that question, feel free
Yeah.
to bring it up at other episodes because I feel like what usually happens is I think of my response after the fact, after we finish recording.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I should have said that. So
You would think we'd be good at improv or
yeah,
something, like thinking of
no,
things on the spot.
I can't. I can't think of my feet like that. I gotta be as scripted as possible.
Yes,
This
absolutely.
question will come up again, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. But no, that was a great question. Thank you for bringing
Yeah,
that up.
absolutely. So let's get right into our list. The first game I'd like to catch up on is one I've mentioned before, probably prior to Halloween, and it is Resident Evil Village.
Yes, let's get into it.
And so, if you hadn't listened to previous episodes where I've mentioned this game, I am a fan of Resident Evil, not so much Silent Hill. I hate scary movies, but I could play scary video games for some
Hmm.
reason. Well, at least Resident Evil Village. Um, so I bite my tongue when I say that because I started playing this on a Steam Deck, thinking I'll play it. It's on a smaller screen. I'll play it during the day,
Hmm.
and I will play it on low volume. That's
Okay.
how I usually get through these games for the first run through. I have stopped doing that,
Wow.
and for some reason, Terry, I've moved to my desktop,
Okay.
which is a bigger screen, which has louder speakers, and a little bit more immersion when you're using mouse and keyboard.
Okay.
So I played a few hours of it. It's great. Everything about it, the atmosphere, the graphics, the writing, the characters. Um, it's a lot of fun,
Hmm.
and I think the appeal with a lot of horror survivor video games is that your resources are so limited,
Yeah.
and it's so cool because you really have to strategize and plan out your approach before you enter this daunting battle with
Hmm.
whatever monster, zombie, boss, what have you. And on top of that, you have the characters popping out. You have the sisters. You have Lady Dimitrescu, who's just you hear her footsteps. Um, it's fully immersive, so much that I
Oh no.
got way too scared. So everything I had said about playing it on the Steam Deck is opposite now,
Uh-huh.
and it's usually later at night, and I'm by myself.
You really said, let me just make this absolutely worse for
Yeah,
myself.
it's some type of self sabotage and masochism.
You do that a lot, honestly.
So I am new to the PC gaming world. As I said, this PC I had built not that long ago to as an introduction to the PC world. So I've learned how to mod games,
Hmm.
and I felt that if I wanted to complete this game and get to the end of this plot that I'm pretty much invested in,
Hmm.
I need help.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I'm already on a casual setting. I'm still like on the verge of wetting my pants. So I did my research, learn how to mod a video game on the PC. It's a lot of fun,
Uh-huh.
takes a lot of tinkering,
Sure.
and for some reason, different like batches of games use different mod managers.
Hmm.
Um, and so I decided to start doing that with Resident Evil Village, and it is so pleasant now.
Nice. I
I
like
am
it.
not, I am not as scared, right? And I have, like, I implemented like a trainer, which allows me to tinker with different settings in the game,
Hmm.
character speed, ammo availability, health, other like user interface things. You can see the health bar above enemies now.
Okay.
You could no clip. You can do all this stuff. So I don't feel as much fear. And at first I'm like, am I like, because I'm cheating, is it gonna take away from my experience? And
Okay.
so far, it hasn't.
Good. Good. That's what I would like want to hear from you, that you're
Yeah.
still enjoying it with
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely still enjoying it because I'm still, I mean, not as immersed in the game as I would be going in like fresh, but I'm still making progress in a game that I know nothing about.
Yeah.
I don't know what the ending is. I don't know what's to come, except for one thing, and that's more protective versus the dolls.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's taken the pressure off of me to get it right the first time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I know with previous Resident Evil games, you if you beat the game under a certain amount of time or a certain amount of saves, if any at all, you're rewarded with like special weapons and costumes and stuff. I'm gonna skip that part. I don't have time for it.
Just
I'm
gonna
just
jump
gonna
straight to it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I am
absolutely.
enjoying it.
That's good. It's good. And that's I think that's the one great thing. There are many great things, but like a great thing about PC gaming, you can really tailor things to the experience you want to have,
Hmm.
with through use of mods, and you can through use of like graphical settings to tailor it to
Yeah.
like make it look as pretty as you want. But definitely mods. The modding community is a godsend
Oh
to
man.
gamers. Just the
Yeah.
people who can like go in there and like tinker with those things. But
It's incredible. Yeah.
incredible. But it's really like heartening. Is that right? Heartening. It's
Mhm.
good to
Yeah.
hear that you may have toned down the difficulty. You may have given yourself some leg ups that the usual experience wouldn't want you to have. But you're still enjoying it. You still feel like you're getting a good
Yeah.
experience from it, which
For
I feel like
sure.
is vindicating.
It is, and I like to see it as growth.
Yeah.
I think maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't have allowed myself to do this for some like ego boost,
Yeah.
right? To say like,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, I did it. I got through it
Hmm.
despite, all the struggle I had internally. Um, but I've done that. I've done that with plenty of games before, and I'm okay with not doing that now, right?
Yeah.
And I can still enjoy it. So, um, I want to go back to like previous games I've played where I have been like so gung ho about finishing perfectly.
Yeah.
Um, that I want to mod those previous games and just enjoy the ride, right?
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
and see how much of a different experience I can get. Um, for some reason, Thomas the Tank Engine is like the meme in the mod community.
Always, bro. What's going on with Thomas the Tank Engine?
And I know it's big in Skyrim and stuff like that. I've
Yeah.
seen the memes, right? Um, but I could make Lady Dimitrescu. I could make her face Thomas the Tank Engine,
Fantastic.
which has its own level of fear.
Right.
I don't know if it comes with the audio, but hey, maybe I'll try that towards the last like quarter of my playthrough.
Jesus Christ, man. Going back to like I think we were talking about it before we started recording, but time our we're adults. Our time is limited.
Yeah,
And with it being so limited, it's very valued. So, video games are a hobby, and I think I felt the same as you a couple years ago. I wouldn't tone down the difficulty. I'm like, this is the canon experience, so I should
right.
adjust myself to the canon
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
And I feel that way not just with like difficulty, but with like, and we'll get to this a little later, like right after we hop off of Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil, whatever. Yeah, Village. I've become okay with not finishing games as well.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to not be mean to myself or hard on myself when it comes to games in general. Like, this is a
Hmm.
hobby. This is something that should be fun. So if you have to tone down the difficulty, if you have to tailor the experience, if you have to drop a game, like these are okay things.
Right.
So like you said,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a good thing.
That's such a journey with that itself, right? Because I think at least you and I, gaming since we were young, right? It was kind of like a competition. So that way, when we had the opportunity to talk about it with other friends or peers, we were able to say, "Yeah, I beat that game."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And then the reaction that you get, "Oh, how'd you beat that
How'd you
game?
do
It's so
it?
hard, right? How'd you get through this part?" That was so validating itself.
Sure.
So, I think it's safe to say that you and I have matured.
Oh my god, you think so? I know,
Hey, we
absolutely.
got beards now. We got mustaches that almost connect.
Maybe by the time we're like in our 40s, they will grow
Okay, yeah,
down.
we still got room to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still waiting. I'm getting there. My second growth spurt is coming. I can feel
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Hopefully it's vertical.
Jesus Christ, man.
That's all I gotta say about Resident Evil Village. As I continue to make progress, I'll bring it back up for future episodes.
Yes, please. I'm very excited to hear your Thomas the Tank journey and all
Oh
that.
yeah, that's gonna be great.
Absolutely. Going on to my little thing. I know I mentioned earlier how I've become okay with not finishing games, and I think I might have like mentioned this when we were hotel recording, but when we last left off on my little Zelda retrospective journey, I was coming towards the end of Majora's Mask, and I think I was coming to the realization I wasn't not liking my experience, but I think it was just hard for me to get into the flow of the time mechanic, how certain storylines would progress and then, regress as the time flowed forward and backwards. Um, and there was something about it that I loved the game. I loved the vibe. I loved the
Mhm.
spookiness of it. I think Majora's Mask has better characters than Ocarina of Time. I think the vibe is way better. I think the world, like tonally, is way more interesting. So there are so many leg ups that I will give Majora's Mask. But it was
Nice.
just something about the gameplay and something about the flow of things that I think I definitely preferred more in Ocarina of Time.
Hmm.
So I DNF'd Majora's Mask, which in
Okay.
I guess in book world means did not finish. I put it down. I finished the Zora like temple. So I did like the three major ones. I was off
Sure.
to the fourth one and then going to the moon. I've watched videos of the ending of the game before. I know how cool it gets towards the end, and maybe
Yeah,
one day I'll go back and like experience it because I think that whole moon section is like so trippy and fun.
it's very trippy.
Absolutely. But for now, I'm putting it down because it became more of a I'm forcing myself to finish this,
Hmm.
and I it was a pride thing, and I really had to sit down and be like, during this retrospective, I want this to be fun. I don't want it to be
Yeah.
homework. I don't want it to be a job. So if I'm coming to the point of a game where I'm like, it's starting to plateau or
Hmm.
even go downward, the enjoyment factor going downwards, I'm gonna put it down. I'm gonna move on to the next one. I'm gonna reflect on the experience, what I liked and what
Right.
I didn't like, and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a great approach. I
Mhm.
mean, I like what you said about plateauing because there is a point in Majora's Mask where you're like, okay, I get what this game is about.
Mhm.
I get where it's headed, and you've seen the videos of the end, um, and I see how this all comes together and makes this experience right. I feel like that itself is a nice ending for you, um, knowing what Zelda games are,
Yeah.
right? And you've played a number of them already,
Sure, sure.
got a good number of them under your belt. It's very different than even when you played Zelda 2,
Mhm.
where you're like, I gotta finish this game no matter how bad it is,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Um, but I think with this retrospect that you're progressing through, it's you want to get a picture of the whole, right?
Mhm.
The whole series, the whole evolution of Zelda. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, arguably could be in the same
Sure.
like category, right?
Mhm.
If not generation. So I think I agree with you. It's safe to say you've gotten your fill.
Mhm.
It does become a chore and a to do list
Yeah.
after Zora's Domain, because you got to get every mask. It's a completionist game. So
Yeah.
um, be cool to see you go back to it. But on to the next.
Yeah, on to the next one, and speaking of on to the next one, I moved on to the Oracle games after that, so
Yeah.
those 2 I also DNF'd. So,
Okay.
I played a bit of both. I finished the first 2 temples in both of them.
Uh huh.
I really like the switching time back and forth and the switching of the seasons mechanic. These were, I think, the first 2 Zelda games made by Capcom, so it's where, like,
Yeah.
Nintendo kinda, like, handed it off.
Hmm.
And they're cute. They're fun little bite-sized experiences. But at the end of the day, they were Link's Awakening clones, quote unquote. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. I get it. They're doing fun things. You know, you get to like hop into an animal. I chose the kangaroo for
Ah, okay.
Oracle's season, so you get to hop into the kangaroo's pouch and like control it and beat up enemies. I thought it was doing cool and unique things, but also I'm like, all right, I get it. I don't want to like go through more hours of another Link's Awakening.
Yeah,
I kind
yeah,
of want to move on. So I DNF'd those as well.
yeah. I mean, you did both like simultaneously.
So I started with seasons, and then I'm like, all right, I get it. After like the first two, I moved to ages, and then with the kind of same mindset, I'm like, all right, if I know these are super similar, I'm just gonna play a couple things of ages. Did the
Hmm.
same thing. I'm like, all right, I get it. These are great, cute,
Yeah,
love the vibe. On to the next one. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially, I think, especially because you had played Link's Awakening fairly recently,
yeah.
so it's still pretty fresh in your mind.
Yeah, still super fresh. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. And this was like the era of, like you said, Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, where you know they're twins. They're
Hmm.
twins, just like the Oracle games are twins to Link's Awakening. So you know, Nintendo were very smartly in the day reusing assets, reusing concepts
Hmm.
to make one game easier to make. So they would just use the same assets and all that. But I think I was. It was also a mix of I was super excited to just move on to what came after the
Yeah,
Oracle games. You know,
I was thinking that too.
yeah, you know, I'm not afraid to admit it. I was rushing to this one from the beginning of this retrospect. I was rushing
Yeah,
to get to this one, and and the couple that come after it.
you finally got there.
I'm on it, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, days and dems, I am currently playing in my retrospect The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, what is arguably, in my opinion, one of the best uh, Zelda games. And I'll go to bat for that. Twilight Princess is really good too. They're all so good. What am I talking about? But
Yeah,
Wind Waker is one of my favorites. I've talked about it on the podcast many times. It was like my first Zelda game where I could kind of understand like the English language, so I kind of understood what I was doing for a bit. Just the I'm gonna rant for a little bit. So
go for it.
if I'm word salad, let me know.
Yeah.
But I think it's the soundtrack is so good. I love the cartoony style. I know that was like a like big thing back in the day. Like people were like, I want a realistic Zelda, blah blah blah. This is wild. But I was like, I don't know, 9, 10 years old at the time. I wasn't reading like video game magazines and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
was just enjoying my time. So I loved the art style. um, Sailing along from one island to another seamlessly. Like I know the ocean kind of counts as a loading screen, so as you get to another island, it's loading in the background. But like you know, having that be so seamless to your eyes and like is just the coolest thing ever. And to me as a kid, that ocean when you would like have to sail from one place to another felt like such a journey in of itself. And it's
It
like, all
was.
right, I have to like get on the road and fight the monsters that will pop up in between.
Yeah.
So creative. Um, I thought the plot of Link losing his sister in the beginning.
Hmm.
I have a little sister, so that really hit hard with me when I was like 10 or whatever,
Yeah.
and you know hits hard with me now. Still, I think the stakes make for a great adventure.
Hmm.
He has such great motive. The characters are so cool. Like I love this game's depiction of the Rito. They kind of
Okay.
look like you know like more like native like tribes
Yep.
people. I love like you know they're just people, but they have like beaks for noses. I think that's
It
like
looked like they were like just tacked on.
yeah,
In
and
the
it's
head
so cool, man. I love this rendition, and it's just such a vibey, colorful experience. And I wish this game would have had more positive reception when it first came out. I think over time, like people have come around to it and
for
realized,
sure.
yeah, that it's an amazing game. I know we got a couple quote unquote sequels in it with the like Phantom Hourglass
Yeah,
and like Spirit Tracks and all that, but I would love to see like Toon Link and this like cell shaded world really just expounded upon because I think I don't know there was so much charm in this world and in
so
this
much
game.
charm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I could dump on it for a while, but I'll let you talk too.
No, I agree with everything you're saying and more. My first initial reaction I saw it in like a gaming magazine, but my first initial reaction to its production was like, "What are they thinking?" Right?
Hmm.
It's This isn't Zelda at all. Call it something else, right?
Sure.
And when I actually picked it up, I was pleasantly proven wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? It is one of the best Zelda games I've played. Um, of course, Majora's Mask will always be my number one, but for this to be second, uh, second on the list is pretty strong. I feel like this was such a revolutionary, transformative game for the
Hmm.
series, because I think upon first glance, I was like, "What? How much can you do in an ocean? Right? It's
Right.
just vast nothingness."
Mm.
They made it work, right?
Yeah.
And it was with music, it was with visuals, with random encounters, with treasure hunting. It was one of the first Zelda games where I willingly found a guide online to track down secrets and treasures
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
upgrades, right? Um, and I think we've talked about this before, but when we have to like look up a guide to sort of facilitate our playthrough, it doesn't take away, but it just immerses us even more, right? It
Yeah.
gets us more invested, and um, more effort goes into that gameplay. So that was one of the first games, not just for Zelda, but altogether in my lifetime that forced me to do that
Yeah.
and had positive outcomes. So I think it's safe to say that this may be at the top of your list at the end of this retrospect,
Yeah.
as it deserves to be so. Um, and it's a game that I've always wanted to replay. So, I mean, hearing you talk about it makes me want to replay it again.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those games that deserve a replay. And I'm definitely looking at it with a lot of nostalgia. But all those things that you mentioned, finding the secrets under the ocean, the random encounters of it all. I think it proves itself to be just one of those Nintendo experiences. They make something magical out of something so simple as sea travel. You
Right.
know, the
Sea travel, yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. And just like I know I mentioned it before, but it's just so cool that the ocean counts as like the loading screen. So it's such a seamless travel, just going from place to place, and you don't even notice that islands are loading in the background. You get to you land on an island, a major island, and you just walk right onto it. There's no like because this was back in the GameCube. There's no like 30-second, 20-second loading screen. You're just pop in there.
Yeah,
That's so cool and
it's
so
incredible.
creative. Absolutely. Um, I'm playing this on my Odin 2 Mini, so it's the GameCube version, but I downloaded a bunch of texture packs, so it kind of looks a lot prettier. I had to like put in some like quote unquote like cheat codes because Nintendo back in the day was like obsessed with inverted like horizontal cameras, and I can't do all that, so I had to like mod it a little bit for some like modern camera controls.
Yeah.
But it's good, man. It's good.
It's funny you say that. A lot of the games they have on like the Nintendo like expansion emulators on the Switch don't play well on the Switch control
Yeah.
because there was such a funky N64 controller
Hmm.
with different buttons to control the camera or to strafe or to turn, right?
Yep.
It really messes with your mind.
It
So
does.
I got one of those like off brand, off market, like N64 wireless controllers,
Oh, cool.
because I couldn't find any more of the official like Switch N64 controller.
Hmm.
So I got like a wireless one for the emulator on the Switch, and it is so much better. But
Nice.
it kind of goes to show like they don't always transfer
Sure.
seamlessly. You gotta go and find your mods and your tinkering.
Yeah, man, that's the beautiful thing we were just talking about in mods these days and the community. It was a quick Google search. I'm like, how do I blah 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 input this code into Dolphin the emulator? And somebody it was like the first one a Reddit thread. They're like, here, put these code of numbers, and easy as that. It was
Yeah,
magic.
amazing, so amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'm still very early on. I think I just did the first dungeon, the Dragon Roost dungeon. So now I'm on to the Korok tree in this game. So this it's like the second, third dungeon if you count the Forbidden Fortress. So I will come back with some updated thoughts. Next time we record, I'm sure maybe I'll be close to the end or something like that. But
Yeah,
I'm very
absolutely.
excited.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear more about it.
Hell yeah, man. What do you say we take our first break and then we'll come back with something I'm very excited to talk about?
Yeah, you and I both. Let's take that break and then we'll catch you on the other side.
All right, let's do it. Babies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are back, and we have a game that we both played. And Dan played it to my surprise and enjoyment, and told me about it a couple days ago. I've beaten it. I think Dan, you said you're about like a third of the way through, almost halfway.
About 3 hours. So you tell
Okay,
me how
cool,
long
cool.
this game is.
Yeah, you got a little bit to go,
All right.
but it's such a fun ride. Babies, we got a game, 1000X Resist. You might have heard about it. I believe it came out this year, but it's like one of those big indie hits. So I'm gonna read a little bit from the Wikipedia page. 1000X Resist is an adventure video game created by developer Sunset Visitor and published in 2024 by Fellow Traveler Games for Windows and Nintendo Switch. The player is a clone named Watcher in the post apocalyptic far future where aliens have eradicated most of humanity through a global pandemic, leaving only a small society of clones behind. This game was created by a four-person development team based in Vancouver, Canada, with backgrounds in theater, new media, dance, and performance arts. Creative director Remy Sue stated the game began as a prototype in March 2020 following the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. Makes a lot of sense. During a period when the developers were unable to perform or tour and decided to enter video game development, and then so on and so forth. But what I really wanted to highlight, Dan, were like two main points that were really amazing and awe-inspiring. First, that this was a four-person development team.
I didn't
Uh,
know that. That's amazing.
Crazy for the amount of quality storytelling in this game, um, and all that to be created by four people, insane. And then the second thing, that this is this development team's first game that they've ever created, and none of them, from what it sounds like in the Wikipedia article, come from a video game development background. That some of them were like theater, new media, and dance, and all that. And I think that we'll get into it a little bit, but I think that shows a lot in both not so great ways, but in some like really amazing ways, and more so the amazing ways than the not great ways. Um, but just to surface level things before we get into all the stuff we're going to talk about, because I feel like it's going to be a lot. I bought this game maybe a week ago, week and a half ago. It's pretty cheap game, not cheap, affordable. It's like $20. It goes on sale for $15 a lot on Steam. And I got sucked into this game, Dan, from like the first chapter straight through to the end. I would sit down, like I haven't sat down and just like been absorbed in some great storytelling, like in a video game, in a long, long time. And you can ask Mallory, like I sat down last night because I really wanted to finish this game. It's 10 chapters long. So I started last night, not last night, like yesterday at probably around 3 p.m. And it was 11 p.m. from the time I got from chapter 6 to the last chapter, chapter 10. And it was like, I wasn't talking. I was like so enthralled. Like it was just an amazing experience. But tell me about your experience with it. Like, what do you think so far?
Yeah. It is a very, very unique game, and I would not have picked this up hadn't you told me about it.
Hmm.
I would have looked this over and be like, oh, that's cool, and then moved on. I wouldn't know anything about development. I wouldn't know anything about story, so on and so forth. I'm glad you said something. I always take your recommendations seriously because we have very similar taste.
Thanks, man.
And I was like, you know what? If Terry's so into this game, give it a shot. And wow, it is, especially after telling me it's their first game, it's a team of four, and they have
Hmm.
no background in video game
Right.
development. They knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Sure, there are some shortcomings, right? But it doesn't take away from any of the experience.
Hmm.
A lot of what they do well, especially with storytelling, it just takes priority over everything else.
Yeah.
Um, I when I first played through it, I mean the first like half hour, I was like, what is this, Terry?
You're
Like,
right.
what are you doing with this game?
Sure, sure.
Um, but very very quickly after that, I was absolutely hooked, and it
Mhm.
was ex- exclusively because of the storytelling. The storytelling isn't so much through narration. It is like a visual novel. It is like a heavy narrative based game,
Yeah, it's a lot of
but
walking and talking, and that's
it's a
mostly
lot of
it.
walking, talking, and then sort of connecting the pieces together.
Mhm.
Right? What's been said, what hasn't been said, what you're doing, what's going on in the background. Um, I think the fun is putting all these pieces together because it can be very cryptic. What are they getting at? Is this like something based in religion? Is it based in culture? Is it
Mhm.
coming of age? Is it this and that? Right? Um, there's not a whole lot of like gameplay.
Right.
It's not a lot of action. It's not a lot of even like action sequences or timed buttons or anything like that. It's really just you're an observer yourself. You're a watcher yourself, navigating a watcher through all these questions.
Yeah.
Um, and it's about this. I don't want to say too much, but I think the setting is actually like in Canada, um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of like a high schooler, I think,
Mhm.
um, who is also of Asian descent. I want to say like her family's from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I know so far. And so there's a lot of conflict and tension there with some culture shock and barriers. But the way they tell this story is a lot deeper than your run of the mill, like, hey, this is like coming to a new country, so on and so
Mhm.
forth. Um, I don't know a whole lot so far, but plot wise, I can't help but think like this is part of this girl's psyche. Like we're playing different parts of her mind and different roles and hats that she has in her head.
Yeah.
Maybe time will tell when I play through it. But as far as the actual playing of the game goes, it's so fresh. Every different, I'll call it chapter, every different chapter has a different demand and different like sequence to
Mhm.
it, right? I
Yeah.
know they do this thing called communion where you join with another sister and you go through a memory, but no two memories are alike.
Mhm.
Even with the sequencing time traveling mechanic, I don't know what that is.
Right.
Um, even that has a different function per chapter so far, um, and so it's a way of like keeping things like interesting, keeping me on my toes, not
Mhm.
really feeling settled with any of the mechanics right now, and maybe that might never happen. But that's actually the part that I like about it, because it's like a different form of storytelling without like having like a tutorial or anything like that to tell you what's actually happening. So it's a very unique game. I'm excited to see what's to come. I'm so interested in hearing your reaction
Yeah.
to the rest of the game that I haven't played yet.
No, sure, absolutely. You touched on, the storytelling being like fresh and like you know, a fresh new experience, and I think I agree. It's how I would compare it to what would be the way FromSoft kinda, like, tells you a story. They don't you're never getting direct storytelling. They'll give you, like, vague phrases, sayings here and there, but you're piecing the story together through item descriptions, through, like, armor pieces you get, and it's kinda the same way, kinda in a little bit, with 1,000 X Resist. You are taking these I might be jumping in into a little bit, so I'll reel it back in towards the end because I'm a little deeper than I want to be. But you're jumping through these, like you said, they're called communions. So you're jumping through memories, piecing memories and the story together through these different interactable memories. And it's not always linear. Sometimes it's not linear. You're in the past, you're in the future, and it's like trying to figure out where in the past and future you are. Um, but reeling it back a little bit I think this game touches on a lot of themes, and there are too many to really just pinpoint it down to that. There are so many, just touching on a few: generational trauma. How do we carry forward the sins of our past? If you want to, like, take it to the extreme level, or just like, how a mother treats her daughter and how that daughter will treat her daughter, and so on and so forth, going down the line. It tells a great, like, immigration story. This family is from China, and unfortunately, I'm not super educated on the resistances that have gone on there, but they mentioned,
Mhm.
like, the umbrella. There's like a black umbrella movement. Apologies again, I don't know too much about it, but the the mother and the father, you find out some of their background with what happened over there and how that carries on to their immigration to Canada, like you said, and how their daughter, who I believe is first generation, I believe she was born in Canada,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
she grows up with immigrant parents, and she makes a friend along the way who is kind of from the same area, but she's like, um, I won't even go into it too much because I don't want to give too much away. But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's so many great themes. But I think the one major one, and this isn't a spoiler at all, because this is kind of the crux of the game. It's like these clones are all made from the same girl, and they revere this girl as a god, as, like, they call her the all mother. And it's the girl, again, this isn't spoilers, this is something you learn, like, in the first, like, 10 minutes. It's a girl who is resistant, she's immune to the disease that, these aliens have brought from wherever. So, the government or whoever, like, takes this girl Iris, under their care and protection. They run some experiments, this and that happens on down the line, won't get into it, but, she comes to be able to clone herself, and again, they revere her as a god, but and, that brings into question, like, this girl, she's just a regular teenage girl. Like, these clones, they take her poems that she wrote in her diary as a teenager, and they view that as sacred text. They take her, like, childlike drawings that she would draw with, like, Crayola crayons and all that, and they see that as sacred symbols, and stuff like that. And then the game, like, and that's such unique storytelling. That's such
Yeah.
you're really watching a movie. You're reading a book. Like, this is such gripping circumstance. Um, and I won't getting into it too much, but just like the the pros and cons. I don't even know if there's any pros, but just like what the fallout of revering this person as a godlike figure, because to them she really is a godlike figure. She gave them life. If you and what the fallout is from all of that, is such a cool, really cool concept. And if you've ever read the book The Giver, it was like a book they made us read in, like, elementary school. In that book, it's like they live in this, like, kind of secluded group of people, and there's this one person that he's called the Giver, and he, like, has all the memories of, like, all of, I don't know, humankind or whatever, of the outside world. And, he's close to dying, so there's a new Giver. It's like a little boy, and he has to, like, train him and give him all the memories. That's kind of what this reminds me of, as you play as the Watcher, because you're jumping in and
Right.
out of memories, you're
Yeah.
communing with other sisters and, like, showing them the way, and then what comes of all that. It's just so cool, man. This was such a gripping
It's so
tale.
cool. It's a lot of layers, right? And
Mhm.
I think even though it is at the very base of it an immigrant story, it's still so relatable whether you come from an immigrant family or not.
Yeah.
Because it is that teenage angst, it is that wanting to separate, it's that
Yes.
generational trauma. Um, and I think, yes, it kind of has a religious spin on it, but I think it goes deeper into psychology
Mhm.
and how it's almost like a movie Inside Out, right? Where everyone has a specific role
Yeah.
and identity and how you integrate all of that or get rid of them, right? And what is that replaced with? And the way they show that is through like a personification of those different identities, right? Of those different personas, if you want to
Mhm.
call it that, archetypes. Um, and you are there just for the ride.
Yeah.
And if the whole story doesn't relate to you, there's definitely some pieces that will resonate with you. That's
Oh,
almost a
absolutely.
guarantee.
Hmm.
Whether it's even in the first chapter, go like being nervous for a high school dance, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's certainly reminiscent of COVID. Like you can't deny
Yeah,
that, right? Or
absolutely.
a pandemic going around. Iris is the one that's immune. They want to study her.
Hmm.
Um, it's one of the first thoughts I had when someone had mentioned, people are getting sick and these are the symptoms, right? Um, how could you not respond to it that way? How could these developers take even their own stressors and traumas and anxieties
Yeah.
from the pandemic to a creative outlet like this, right? And I assume there's a happy ending. So, what's it like to go through that and still have a sense of fulfillment, achievement, and meaning in your life? I'm at the very beginning of it, but that's where I predict it will go because of my own life experience. So it's absolutely a game worth checking out. It is definitely making its rounds across at least the online community where
Yeah.
people are really into indies and
Hmm.
less mainstream games. I think um, you know in the future this game is going to be widely celebrated.
Oh, yeah.
Many of the other highly creative indie games out there. So um, no, I'm very happy that you brought this out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you joined me on this journey. It's like it's so impactful and emotional, and like I need somebody to talk about this with. So as you go along, please keep me updated.
For
Um,
sure.
this is such a standout hit of the year, and I could wax poetically all day about it, and it does deserve to be waxed poetically about. But as I said earlier, this is this team's first game, and in some of the ways that shows not so great. I think that the hub world, you've definitely experienced already, the orchard, getting around. I really don't like the hub world, and you spend a lot of time in the hub world. I think it is difficult to navigate, um, and you have to navigate it a lot. There are like points all across the map of people you can talk to, and like the game does not offer an easy way to get around.
No, that I was thinking that just last night when I was playing it. I'm like, this
Mhm.
could be better. And
Yeah,
the way they have sort of this heads up display to show you where the people are, I still can't read it. I don't
yeah.
know how it tells me which floor to go on, where
Oh,
the
it
people
doesn't.
are,
Oh,
distance.
yeah.
It kind of looks like bars on a music chart.
Mhm.
And at first I thought that's what it was. I'm like, is this a musical? Um, but even then, when you talk to a certain sister or person, those markers are still there. They don't just disappear. They're different
Right.
colors. I don't know what the colors mean.
Mhm.
So I don't foresee myself spending too much time or energy trying to figure that out. It's just
Yeah.
exploring as I go.
Explore as you go. Yeah, like you said, like it's a bar on the top of the your screen, the UI part, and there's just like as you look around, you can see different like squares on it to showcase like which sister to go talk to. But there's there's like three floors actually, so it doesn't tell you which floor each sister is on. You kind of just got to like look on your screen to see if you can actually see them on your display. Um, and you're doing a lot of running around. The running isn't very fast. I wish there was like if they could give me like a skateboard or something, man, to get around a little faster. If I could fast travel at least, like
If only you could roll like you could at Dodgeball Academy.
oh my god, that was the best. Just make running around fun, and I will like excuse the bad hub world.
Yeah.
Um, Secondly, the game doesn't look too great. We're playing it on Steam Deck PC. I think the alternative is Switch, so I can't even imagine what it looks like on Switch. But there's a lot of like aliasing. Something. It's definitely not awful. It's not a ugly game, but it's not the best looking
I have
one out
I
there.
have one question for you. It's I don't know if it was a bug or if it was intentional. At one point, Iris was like conversing in a memory with someone else, but she was stuck in the A pose. I don't know if that was, and she was like floating. So I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Oh yeah, I don't know because there are a couple like points where they do like the religious like stuff, but I don't know if it's like
Yeah,
was that extreme or
I have
like
no
arms
idea.
straight
Yeah,
out.
yeah. And then she has like a giant halo above her head, which I feel like that's intentional. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, no, it's I feel like a lot of these first time like flaws add a little bit of character to it,
Sure, yeah,
a little bit of like
absolutely.
grit. It's like not going to be a smooth game
Mm-mm.
in
And I
terms
don't
of
and it,
development like that.
yeah, and it shouldn't be. For people, your first game, like this is a astounding first game
Yeah,
for a studio of this size. So like the flaws are to be expected and they should be there. You know, you need to make those like mistakes or whatever, but like I wouldn't even like consider them mistakes. I'm like, okay, they're there.
yeah.
It is what it is. This is an amazing game besides all that, you know. This it's so cool to experience something like this.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about A Thousand Extras this. We can bring it back as you move forward.
I probably will. Yeah, because it is a deep game, and
Oh, so
it makes
heavy.
me think. So I'm gonna want to talk about it.
Absolutely. Just oh God, I can keep going about it. Themes of individuality, themes of religion. What happens later on, and I'm like, wow, this is probably literally America right now, or going to be
Yeah,
America. It's
yeah,
so cool,
yeah.
but
It's
we'll
cool
get
to see how
into
current events can inform those games too. So
it. Absolutely. Dan, how about we take a break from waxing poetically, take a little break, and then we'll come back with some games we got.
yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back better than ever. Dan, this is a game that I think this is probably my third or fourth time I've lost count at this point, bringing it to the show. I have a problem playing too many, like, 100-hour RPGs at the same time. So this is just another one of those, and I'm trying to work my way through it so hard, but it's so long, and I don't want to rush through it because I'm enjoying my time with it, honestly. But I'm bringing Persona 3 Reload back to the show. It's not going to be a super long segment because I kind of just want to highlight kind of like where I am and what I'm thinking of it so far. But I think I mentioned this before in the show, but I was kind of like going back and forth in my brain on like if someone came up to me and they were asking what Persona game should they start with, if you're only counting like the main three, you're not counting the first two, other ones. So just three for Golden and Persona 5. Like I I'm somewhere in between starting with this one and starting with Persona 4 Golden. And again, I'm newish to the Persona franchise. I started with Persona 4 Golden last year, I believe, and thoroughly enjoyed my time with that one. But where I am right now with Persona 3 Reload, I didn't think I thought Persona 4 Golden was gonna be my top, like, nothing's gonna beat this, especially the ending sequence and everything leading up to that, but where I am right now in Persona 3 Reload, I'm not even I might be halfway. I'm in, like I think the game goes to the end of January or something like that. I'm in September, so I'm creeping up on the end. I'm kissing somewhere close to the top. Um I'm loving this game. I think it might top Persona 4 Golden for me. Just the music. I've gotten to the point where I'm able to start social links with your the people in your team, right? So something weird about like this game is you can't develop a social link with Junpei or Akihiko, like the guys in your team. I think that's something that translates from like the original Persona 3.
Oh, there's a rocket ship in
Did you have like
my backyard.
like a spaceship just land on your house?
That was strange. It's never been that loud before.
That is crazy.
Wow.
I thought the war was starting, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Audio listeners, if you can hear that, pray for us. Anywho, yeah. So I think that's something that carries over from the original Persona 3. You couldn't like have a social link with the guys because I think it had something to do with like romancing. But in Fez or whatever, if you played as like the female protagonist, it like switches, so you can have a social link.
Ah,
Blah blah blah. Whatever. What I'm trying to say is, I wish I wish that's something that they change like fully. I wish you could like hang out and develop these social links with your guy teammates. But to develop a social link with your female teammates, you know, Yukari, Mitsuru, and Fuka for short. That's what they call her. You need to max out your like personality traits or whatever. So your bravery, your intelligence, and your charm. And like I know you play these Persona games, Dan, but for like the people who aren't too familiar, that takes a long time. Um, you are studying every night. You'd have to study every night. You know, you can raise your bravery in this game by eating at a burger restaurant for some reason. That's just Persona for you. And for charm, you can eat at like a ramen restaurant. Then it's like their reason for that is the collagen in the ramen like helps your
Yeah,
skin, so you become more charming. Um, but it's really cool. So I maxed out all my personality points or whatever for that. So I'm finally developing you know relationships with um, Yukari and Fuka and Mitsuru starts in December, so you can't do all that till December. But it's really cool. I'm really enjoying the battling. I've got some high level personas now,
nice, nice.
um, and I'm discovering some social links that are really really interesting and really heartfelt and heartbreaking. You know, the big theme around Persona 3 is death, you know, and how our relationship with it and all that. So a lot of the social links involve, you know, death in some way, not as pronouncedly, but some are. But I'm really enjoying my time, and I God, I listen to the soundtrack on Spotify so
Oh,
often.
it's so good. I
So
mean,
good.
all Persona games have like great soundtracks, but
Mhm.
this one like really captures the feel
Oh, it's good. The
of
battle
what they're going
theme,
after. Yeah,
what is it called? Disturbing the Peace, man. Ah. Oh, man. I can inject that into my veins, like, every single day.
they have like I mean, as far as like when the game came out, they have like concerts for like just the soundtracks. The singers
Yeah.
come out, they jam out to all the favorites for three, four, and now five.
Mhm.
It looks like a good time, so
Yeah.
I recommend that.
I should get on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Uh, I think in the beginning of this game, I was wary that I wouldn't enjoy the cast of like who's in your team as much. But I'm really enjoying the characters. I do think that you like attain some of them like a little too quickly. So like I don't know how much of a spoiler this is on who comes onto your team or not, but I obtained like the dog, the kid, and then like the emo friend like within like 2 3 weeks of each other. Like they were really fast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I really like how Persona 4 and 5 does it to where like every dungeon is a new friend and you're like really like working up to obtaining a new teammate like that. So I like that style more. I think you get them a little too quickly in Persona 3. Um, but they're all like pretty unique designs. You know, just having a dog on your team, um,
Yeah.
who doesn't talk and isn't annoying like Teddy.
Right.
Morgana's kind of a little better, but I like that the dog, you know, doesn't really talk. He just barks and stuff like that. He's
Yeah.
cool. He's cool.
I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm enjoying my time, man, and it's definitely a lot. It's definitely a lot.
It is a lot, and I think it's cool that you're able to see like how three inspired four,
Hmm.
and how even four dropped on some of the things you liked about three. But the endearing part of the Persona series is the life sim, right? Battles are battles, really cool, a lot of symbolism. But where I think it hooks me is the life sim piece,
Yeah.
where it is about social links and how you connect with other people, and you're seeing different themes play out, all under the umbrella of, at least in P3, death and your relationship with death, how you observe it, how other people respond to it.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, talk about storytelling without storytelling.
Right.
Persona got it right in all three, four, and five. Um, so for you to play Reload, I think it's really cool that you're picking up on a lot of the improvements that they've had over time.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on dungeons like, you know, super quickly there. It's, you know, I love the life sim stuff. I think that's probably my what I enjoy about it most, just like you. When it comes to like the dungeons, this one, You're exploring Tartarus, which is, more similar to Persona 4 dungeons. They're just like repeating corridors. They're not as like tailored as the palaces in Persona 5. So this is where you go to grind out levels to, improve your party. So I will play multiple days of like like the social sim stuff. I'll play like multiple days worth of that. But when it like comes to the dungeon, like it's so funny. I will be in that dungeon grinding. So in like real life days, like us days, it'll take me like 2 days worth of my life to
Yeah.
do like one big long grind session because I really try to maximize my time in there. Like
Yeah.
I bring all the SP like refillable stuff, so you're not running out of like magic and all that. Like I'm really grinding out these levels to the point where like me, real life Terry, is becoming exhausted for how long I'm spending in these dungeons. I'm like, I've been here forever. I'm trying to get back to the game. But it's cool. It's a cool back and forth of balancing your social life stuff versus okay, I gotta like figure out I don't like min max it too much, but I'm like, what's the best time to go into the dungeon? Should I like waste an evening, not waste an evening, but sacrifice an evening from my social life stuff to go in here? Is it worth it? In this game, it's pretty cool because unlike 4 and 5, like some people aren't available to go into the dungeon every day. So Yukari might be busy, so you sacrifice going into the dungeon without your healer, or Mitsuru or Akihiko. Like not everybody's available every single day, so it's a cool balancing act in that retrospect. Um, but yeah, it's a great game. Love it so much.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's definitely for me going to be one of the games of the year. I have played much less than you have.
Hmm.
It is on my list. I do touch upon it here and there. But what I think I like more about like four, like in terms of Persona, four is like the top for me. Is that they're like segmented dungeons
Yeah.
and people and like chapters, if you want to call them that. So that way, it's a little bit easier for me to manage my time.
Hmm.
And if I want to do a dungeon first and then load up on social stuff later, I can, because there's a hard deadline, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much set in stone. So that's what I like about four, and even five. Five literally has the counter in the top corner.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
To let you know
a
what
little
you
bit more
got
pressure
left. Yeah, sure. I like and coming back to like what you like about four. I really love the four. It's just like small town. Um, it's just like the everything is everywhere you would expect it to be. And it doesn't expand too much past that small town vibe. And like you said, it's very segmented. It's clear. You're going from chapter to chapter to
there. Hmm.
chapter. I do enjoy that too. I do enjoy that too. It adds some nice like I don't know what to really call it, but nice segments. I do enjoy the nice segment.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
right.
But yeah, that's that. Those are my thoughts on Persona 3. God, maybe I'll come back. Maybe I'll like try to limit coming back with it until I finish it. But it's
Okay.
like my main game right now. What I'm
It's a
trying.
long one.
It's a
Yeah,
long
you
one,
sent a screenshot of like your save, and you're like into the hundreds,
dude. It's
like
yeah,
in terms of like playtime right now, hundreds of hours. Um,
absolutely.
but I mean, looking forward to hearing more about it. Whether you choose to say it next time or when you finish a bigger chunk. But hey, whenever you dive into the mementos, I'd be happy to hear it. But what do you say we dive into the next game?
you're
You
so
see
you're
how
so
that's done?
you're
Do you
so
see
much
how
better
that's
at this than I am. Yeah.
done here? I beat Dave the Diver
Let's
recently.
go.
What a fun game! Like
Yeah.
it's a casual game, but it's like it's still pretty exciting for a
Hmm.
casual game.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't feel like the plot had like that high of the stakes. I wasn't too invested in like the ultimate catastrophe that may have
Sure.
happened in that game.
Hmm.
Um, I just wanted to fish. I wanted to catch fish. I wanted to collect them like Pokemon.
Hmm.
Um, I think I talked about it before, how much I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it, but the last like third of the game is long.
Yeah.
When you are doing like the last hurrah to save what you have to save, and discover some mysteries, I think they continue to add more mechanics,
Hmm.
continue to add more more farms and mini games. Um, Not necessarily a bad thing, but I like we've said earlier this episode, like you kind of get what the game is about, and you're like, okay, I want to feel like I'm entrusted with these mechanics to go at it on my own,
Yeah.
right? Um, I raced a bunch of seahorses.
Yeah.
I love the rhythm game that they have in there.
Hmm.
I wish they had more of that.
Sure.
Um, but what got tiring to me was like farming, and then, believe it or not, sushi.
Yeah,
Um,
really.
yeah, the first like half of the game, I loved doing the sushi, like if you want to call it a mini game, part of the
Hmm.
game. Um, but as more like star celebrities and chefs came to compete, um, having an upgrade to like additional location, that's not
Hmm.
huge. Um, that just became cumbersome for me. It's like another thing I have to take care of or
Yeah.
should be taken care of. And there was a lot of talking, so I'm like, hey, I get it. I understand where this is headed. Just let me play it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the ending was fine. It was a nice end. It looks like there may be a sequel.
Hmm.
Um, but I had a lot of fun with it. I think my favorite part of the game, Terry, was when everything slowed down. And I don't know if you had this in your playthrough experience, but there was like an indie singer who was looking for a specific sushi dish. I made it for her, and she became available to do like an open mic
Hmm.
at the sushi shop, like once in a while.
Hmm.
But the music and the cutscene there, I just let it play out. And like
Huh.
it's one of those scenes where like if you want to end it, you can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will just keep playing. Um, but as a thank you, she plays like a live concert to many of the main characters in the game, and they're
Cool.
around the bonfire. She's just singing her song, and turns out she is like actually a performing artist in real life.
Oh, that's dope. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty sure I found her on Spotify, and I definitely want to give her a plug because she's pretty talented. And it's like really chill indie music.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know if she has a huge presence just yet, but it may have improved or expanded as a result of Day of the Diver. Um, I don't
Well,
know if I'm
we're
gonna
about to
find
we're about to boost her numbers with our massive following over here.
it. Yeah. Um, I forget where she is on my list, but I will look into it as you talk to me about
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
experience with Day of the Diver. I know you played through it not that long ago either, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a little bit since I completed it. I played it on my Steam Deck. Oh, man, I don't even know if it was this year or last year. Recently enough to remember some of my feelings about it, but long enough to maybe I don't remember the fine details and all that. But I definitely do relate to what you said about they just kept adding stuff and
Yeah.
adding stuff, which, like you said, isn't a bad thing. And I can't diss it too much because Persona also does that to me, or to its players, especially Persona 5. I was like 70 hours in, and new mechanics were being introduced to me, whether they be battle mechanics or certain traits and stuff like that. But with Dave the Diver, yeah, like you said, like you gain the ability to open a second restaurant in, and I don't think I ever took too much advantage of that because that ability is introduced really late into the game.
Really late.
And I'm at that point, I'm like, I think I'm getting to the end of this, and I'm earning enough money from my main restaurant that I don't feel like the second one is necessary. So, I threw some workers over there, but I definitely don't feel like I took full advantage of that. Um, and yeah, like you said, I took part in like a lot of the mini games, and a lot of this and that. But I think towards the end of it, I was like, I really kind of just want to like see the end of this, and finish this up. I did really enjoy the exploration of it all, the like the rogue light likeness of it all, like just diving underwater. The ocean randomizes every time. You have to balance how much oxygen you have, how much storage capacity you have. That part I really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the sushi restaurant part of it too.
Hmm.
So, with Dave the Diver, it really mashes these two different genres together. And with mashing two different like game mechanics together, you're not going to get the best of both. So I think the game does a pretty okay job at both. The restaurant managing side of it all, and then the rogue like exploring and
Hmm.
gathering ingredients and stuff like that. Both of those two different mechanics are kind of just they're good. Especially the restaurant part. It can get pretty hectic at times. If you're a fan of like Diner Dash, those
Yeah, yeah.
like games, it can be pretty fun. You have to recruit new workers. Each worker has a stat. You can improve workers by training them if you invest money into them. I think that part was really cool.
Hmm.
It got to the point where I'm like, I kind of like would love if they just split this game in half and gave me all of one and all of the other. I really like how it is, like with these
Yeah.
combined together, but like I wonder what it would be like if you focused on one or the other. But then that would be an entirely different game. So I don't want to
Right.
tell,
Right. I mean,
developers how to
I
make their
think that's the
games.
best way to describe this game. It's like a lot of little games in one,
Yeah. Hmm.
and it's jam packed, right? Even when they had, um, what was it? It was like a little mini game when they did a crossover with Balatro.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, one of my side quests when I played through, I think it was just like an update. It wasn't DLC. It wasn't anything extra, but it was an update. They added Balatro minigame into it. I had no idea. So
Hmm.
when I was doing this side quest, they're like, "Oh, everyone in town is playing this new card game. You got to beat all these people." And then they gave me like a little tutorial. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Hey, I
Dan,
already know this
Dan
game.
said, "Don't you do this to me right now.
Come on.
I can't escape."
And hey, to be fair, I know I put down Balatro, but I crushed this side quest. I was so
Nice.
good at it. Not that it's like super challenging. They kind of hold your hand through it, but I like knew all the tips. I knew all the tricks to destroy my opponent. So that was actually kind of satisfying.
My
If
man.
Balatro was like that, like if Balatro had like almost like Pokemon trainers, but with cards that you had to battle,
Sure.
I would like that a lot more. But to each their own.
To each
Um,
their own.
I found the artist that was in the game.
Okay.
Her name is Maya, but now she goes by MXM Toon.
Oh, wait. I
Um,
I think I know that artist.
yeah, so I have a little blurb that she has on Spotify.
Okay.
The world first met Maya when she was 17-year-old singer with a ukulele and a now famous screen name MXM Toon in 2017. And from the guest bedroom in her parents' California home, the high school student began posting covers of pop favorites and her own catchy confessional musings, tunes that spoke frankly of her setting's assorted tribulations, dates, and a lack thereof, online socializing, and offline loneliness. A queer kid of mixed Chinese, German, and Scottish ancestry, Maya sang songs that express an interiority of the underrepresented with honesty, understanding, and hooks that could not be forgotten.
That
That's a
sounds
little short about section for her.
that's so dope. I know this artist. I have some of their songs
Oh, you
like
do?
in my like playlist from like years ago and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. It was really, really cool to see her integrated into the game. I know
Hmm.
the game like they make characters modeled off of like real time celebrities and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
or even other video games, which is really cool. But to
Hmm.
see someone who's entering the stage of artistry and music to be in a game like that must have been like such a dream. And she definitely deserves it. One of her more popular songs is "Prom Dress," and that's the one I have in one of my playlists on Spotify.
Nice.
And she's good. She's catchy, right?
Now,
Super
did she
indie
sing
vibe.
like actual words in the game, or is it like the little like language that they speak, like the
I think at first it was like the little like blurby language that they had, but then it's actual language.
Oh,
When
cool.
she was actually singing, I'm like, hold on, like this is the first I've heard English in this game. So this has to be something more than just this game. She has a whole life outside of here.
Mhm.
So that was really cool how they integrated her.
That's dope. That's dope. Would you say this is worth like people's time? Like if someone was coming to you for like a nice, like roguelike game or something a little more casual, would you recommend this to them?
If it was roguelike, I don't know if this would be my first recommendation.
Okay,
If they're looking for casual, like decompression and just chill, this would be towards the top of the list I would
sure.
recommend.
Mhm.
I guess it depends what you're looking for because I mean there are some, uh, although brief, exciting sequences in the game,
Yeah. Hmm.
and there's poses a little bit more of a challenge. But if you go in without any expectation, without any set goals, or objectives, and just kind of like see it's about and float around and stuff like that. I think you could really enjoy it and put even more time into it.
Yeah, I think so
They
too. That's
it's
great.
definitely, yeah, it's like a love story for like green earth, ocean,
Mhm.
aquatic life, things like that. So I mean, there's a lot of different layers you could appreciate here.
Yeah, absolutely, and the vibes of it are great. I think the sprite work on characters is
Oh
super
yeah.
charming. Like you said, it's just an enjoyable experience, all about the vibes.
Mhm.
Go into it expecting nothing, and you'll just get a great experience out of it.
Yeah, pleasantly surprised and more. It's one of the more popular games in the past year for a reason.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of collaboration, and I think there's more DLC being released.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely definitely a charming game,
Absolutely.
to say the
It
least.
was a good
So
like a good handheld experience too. I think my time with it would have been different if I was like tied down to it, but I played it on my Steam Deck,
yeah,
so it's nice to like,
I did
you
too.
know, put it down, pick it up whenever I want to.
Yeah,
Made for a
yeah.
nice
If you
time.
could do handheld, I would recommend it. Because again, you cozy up on the couch or in bed or anywhere you find yourself comfortable, and just veg out with it.
Absolutely.
Um, if you, I mean, if you choose to play mouse and keyboard, or I don't know if it's on console, you might get a different experience.
Mhm.
Um, it's a pretty game, looks nice on a bigger screen. I did play it on PC for a few hours, um, but I like just cozying up with it. I mean, that's what makes
Absolutely.
it a casual game.
Love the cozy. Love the cozy.
All right, Terry, why don't you say we take a break,
Mhm.
and when we come back, I'll do a rapid fire with some of the few games I've touched upon since I last saw you.
Let's do it, baby.
Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We're gonna rapid fire some quick little games. Dan has a couple. Maybe I'll think of something I'm playing at the end too. And then Dan, at the end of everything, I got a question for you too. So we'll wait
Yeah,
for it.
for sure. Yeah. So let me get right into it. There are a few games I've like dabbled in. I'm not testing my interest. I am interested in these games. It's just a matter of finding the time for them.
Yeah.
The first one is First Descendant. The First Descendant is a free online P2P, not P2P, like a team shooter, right?
Hmm.
It's similar to like Warframe, Valorant, maybe Apex, but it's got a similar vibe. Um, Destiny, I think Destiny was also free.
Yeah. Yeah. Destiny's free to play now. Yeah. Destiny
Yeah,
2.
so it's got a similar vibe.
Hmm.
Really cool characters. I hadn't played a game like this in a very long time. I don't even know if you want to call Overwatch something similar to it.
Hmm.
But being an online shooter with a shared mission, almost like an MMO RPG, you can play single player offline if you'd like, but you need internet connectivity. Um, I hadn't played a game like this in a long time, and I think I only picked it up because I'm able to do it on PC, mouse, and keyboard.
Okay. Yeah.
I tried it on PS5 for a little bit. It graphics awesome, story interesting enough, um, and the setting is really cool too. But I think for it to be online and a third person shooter as it is, I am having some fun with it
Okay.
on my computer. Um, do I know enough about it? Not too much to talk about.
Hmm.
It's interesting enough. The cutscenes are awesome. They're like really cutting edge. I am a little overwhelmed
Hmm.
by all the different functions and stuff in the main hub. Um, but it might be one of those games where I just touch and go, like I have before with Overwatch or Counter Strike for more competitive shooting. I haven't played a shooter in a long
It's
time,
sure. It's sure.
so
We're
I want
outclassed
to take
these
it
days.
easy. Yeah, yeah. So, um, back in college, maybe I would be able to pump some more hours into a shooter like this.
Hmm.
Back then, it was Modern Warfare 2. But hey, this might be a game that I just touch and go,
Yeah.
pick up, put down. It's really cool how some missions they tell you how long they'll take on average.
Hmm.
So you could really divvy up your time, see if there's anyone you want to play with in your squad or so on and so forth. So um, that's been interesting so far.
Now, is there? I only know like surface level about this game. Is there a campaign in this one, or is it all just multiplayer?
I mean, I think it is a campaign as it is with a lot of games where they go through seasons,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? There's like a main conflict to be like resolved
Hmm.
as you would see in a season of Fortnite or something like that, right? Um, but I don't know if there's like a main campaign in a conventional sense.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's the first Descendant. Looking forward to playing more of that. Next is Papers, Please. Now, when I don't know what to play and I am wanting to do something more mindless, you would think I would gravitate toward like Stardew Valley, but
Yeah.
that game I still find overwhelming. So I again self sabotage and masochism.
Sure.
I play Papers, Please,
Uh huh.
and that is such a detail oriented game. It demands so much of your own attention to detail that I don't know. It's not what you would pick to be a casual decompression
I
game
was
at
about to
night.
say.
Because there are dire consequences if you fail at border control in this vague, general Eastern European country.
Oh man, Dan.
Uh, I I think for one, I am hooked because there are multiple endings
Hmm.
in multiple branches of different days and paths that you take based on your decisions. So I think that's really cool. But this game is a lot of clicking, it's a lot of checking, it's a lot of pressure. Um, and I don't know why I do this to myself. So what I do is instead of flipping through the manual, in-game manual to decide who gets to come into the border or not, I do like a cheat sheet where all the important stuff is on one PDF. I found it online, so I open it up, I set it to the side of my screen,
Okay.
and then it makes it a little bit easier. You could purchase upgrades and shortcuts. But I think the theme of Papers, Please is that you have to decide on your ethics here, right?
Hmm.
It really puts them to question. Do you let this person go because of whatever you have ethically or morally in your head? Do you punish this person for something similar to stealing a loaf of bread, right?
Hmm.
For survival or an honest mistake or a sense of humor, right?
Hmm.
Or a threat from a terrorist group. Um, I think when I take a step back and look at like just the function of border control and the safety checks, the blanking on the word, um, but just the general function of it, it's like a lot of ethics do come into question,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
then you're not here to question who you are, but does it inform like real life and how you treat other people or
Sure.
how you make your decisions when you're interacting with
Yeah. Like,
someone?
how do our biases like affect us, even like
Exactly.
unconsciously or subconsciously?
Yeah. Yeah, and it
Hmm.
plays with like not social media, but current like media. In this game, it's print media
Hmm.
and notifications. How do you take all of like national, international dynamics and allies and conflicts into account when you make your decisions?
Yeah.
I mean, in this case, it's pretty explicit because it's border control. But uh, again, even how you treat other people and how you view yourselves and your role in the world.
Hmm.
Um,
So this is how Dan
really,
relaxes.
this is how I relax. Yep, with with detail oriented, self inflicted existential crises.
The usual. The usual, honestly.
Next, I have is Atomic Heart. I've wanted to play this game for a long time because it looks like Bioshock to me.
Hmm.
In like a utopian world where if something else in world history had gone differently, namely if we lost World War II, what would
Hmm.
it look like? Um, and um, it's so interesting because there's so much history behind it. I'm not really a history buff, despite the past two games I've been playing, um, but it just puts a nice spin on things in like this fantasy utopian world. And it were me in that position, what decisions would I make?
Sure. Yeah. I
Um,
love games like those that like ask, what if something in real life happened differently? And
yeah,
how do you take that creatively? I think that's cool.
right, right. This game kind of again, it reminds me of Bioshock because it's a very similar theme, especially Bioshock Infinite, right?
Hmm.
We're in this utopian world that's not actually utopian,
Right.
right?
Right.
A lot of
Exactly.
discord. Um, I think it's like me wanting to uh, fight the bad guys that were deemed bad guys by actual real world history, um, and just a good amount of sci-fi behind it. Right?
Hmm.
You're fighting robots, right? And there's a lot of like extremes here. Um, and interestingly enough, the voice actor in Atomic Heart for the protagonist, I'm pretty sure he is the voice actor for V in
Oh, really?
Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah,
Hmm.
2077. Yeah, which is actually really cool. I really liked his voice acting, and I really liked Cyberpunk.
Hmm.
So it's almost like a parallel experience in that regard because it's still sci-fi, it's still high tech,
Yeah.
um, and it's a lot of robots and cyber stuff. So um, in the what is it hour I've played so far, um, really interesting. It's a lot of intro, it's a lot of
Hmm.
cinematic cutscenes. Um, but I am interested in the plot, to see where this disaster goes.
Yeah, this is one of those. I remember it dropped on Game Pass as soon as it came out, and I don't remember hearing too much more about it. Like I didn't hear too many bad things. I
Sure.
guess not too many great things either. So I guess it's just a good game, you know.
Yeah. I know it's got a lot of flack in the beginning. I think people set really unrealistic expectations sometimes for games
Sure.
that aren't even released yet.
Hmm.
But I'm going at it with an open mind, and I'm not looking for like a huge AAA blockbuster hit right now. I'm
Hmm.
just, as you could probably notice, getting back into shooters.
Hmm.
And I just want to feel a sense of adventure that way. So, um, interested to see where that takes me in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, man.
And let's see, what do I got last? I have Nine Souls.
Oh man, tell me about it.
Have you touched Nine Souls?
Not too much since I brought it to the show. So I'm still like, I don't even think I fought the first like major boss.
Yeah,
It's something about I don't like playing it on the Steam Deck handheld. I
yeah,
think the controls require me to be more twitchy and more
hmm
reactive. So I think what
yeah.
I'm gonna do is when I get back into it, I'm gonna hook the Steam Deck up to the TV and play with a controller.
Nice. Yeah, Nine Souls is it's a Metroidvania,
Hmm.
right? I haven't played too much of it, maybe less than an hour. But it's got me interested. The story, I don't know what's happening, but the protagonist has been saved somehow and survived some type of disaster. Um, and so far, the controls are simple enough where I can play it on my Steam Deck.
Yeah,
Um, but sort of riding the wave of the Metroid series, like I did, not that long ago. I want to keep that going.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I like the charm of it so far, and it seems pretty modernized. And I am so curious, like what is this Nine Souls about, right? And
Mhm.
maybe it's a little reminiscent of the Hollow Knight feel, the Hollow Knight vibe.
Sure.
So maybe that'll carry me over until I hit my next Metroidvania stretch. So
Yeah, no, that's one I definitely want to go back and revisit. If you are what's the word for it? If you really want to play it handheld and you like refuse to play it any other way, I think what I found was mapping the parry button onto one of like the back buttons on the Steam Deck, one of the
mm,
like like the four little back buttons. That helped a lot because I think it's on L1 and my hands are kind of small, so like
yeah,
putting my finger back up to L1 as fast as
right.
you needed to was kind of hard. So I mapped it to a back button and it made it
That's
a little easier.
understandable. Yeah, I might come across that issue as well. I mean, I'm used to different like grips for controllers, and
Hmm.
I don't know if it really is the same effect on a Steam Deck. But I've told you this before offline. I One of my favorite alternate grips on a controller is the claw, like
Oh
the
yeah.
Talon claw when I'm playing a Souls-like game. Um, so it's really awkward, but it helps me dodge, sprint, and parry in very quick succession. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. I might try that out with Nine Souls. I may end up just remapping. So
Sure.
We'll see.
The joys of PC gaming and remapping if you need to. Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, I got some quick hits too. I like a little quick hit section. Maybe we should like bring this like make this a thing. You know, the little
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
miscellaneous things at the end.
Mhm.
I'm still playing Pokemon Emerald Sea Glass. I know we talked about that a little bit. I'm loving the charm of the Game Boy Color aesthetic, just on top of the Pokemon Emerald itself. Loving that. Thank God for modders in this day and age.
Yeah, right.
I re-downloaded Skyrim onto my.
Oh, have you played that before?
Nah, man, this is a new one. Um, it looks cool. It looks cool. I don't know, something about dragons and something.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I always go back to Skyrim here and there, do my little yearly little playthrough.
Your little
I've only beaten Skyrim, like the actual campaign of it, maybe 3 times.
Okay, well that's fair. I
Hmm.
mean, there's again so much to do.
So much.
When you're busy trying to be an archer, um, the world is really just so open
I'm
for you.
saying, man, like sneak archer again. What's happening here? I don't have time to beat the main game. um, but yeah, so I'll make my little character in there and spend like 5 hours downloading mods, and then play the game for 10 minutes, and then put it down for another year,
Yeah, as you do.
as we do. I'm flirting with the ideal of playing Red Dead 2 again.
Okay.
I'm like, man, I've been seeing a lot of like Arthur Morgan TikToks, and I'm like, I could go for that game again. I've only beaten it once back when it like first came out, and
Hmm.
then so I've tried twice after that to replay it. I don't get too far. I don't think I ever make it past the first camp that you settle down
Sure.
in.
Yeah.
It's a mini game. Even if you just mainline it, it's a mini game. But
Hmm.
I think I'd really enjoy doing that because I really want to play the first one again too. But I'm like in my mind, I'm like I gotta replay the second one to go into the first one. So you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. To make it like a seamless story.
Absolutely. And then the last little quick hit I have is kind of more of a conundrum I'm having than anything else. So I'd love to have your input on this.
Hmm.
So as stated before, I'm coming to the end of Persona 3. I still have to do episode I guess or whatever, like the little post game little whatever. But I'm like, I have 70 hours in Persona 5 Royal right now. And I'm like, do I just restart it once I get into it? Or do or do I pick back up where I'm at? Pros and cons. Picking back up from where I'm at right now, obviously, I don't lose 70 hours worth of gameplay, but I'm like, am I really as invested right now if I just start right here? Like, I've forgotten some of the social link stuff. Like,
Hmm.
maybe I've forgotten a couple mechanics here and there. It's not a hard game, but it's like,
Right.
you want to go fresh. Pros and cons of starting over. You start back over, you lose 70 hours, and those first couple hours of Persona are a real slog,
Yeah.
especially Persona 5, in my opinion. But pros, you get to see everything from the start. And if I actually
Mhm.
stick through it this time, then, you can see it through. So I'm wrestling with that idea.
I guess where I would come with that is I would start over,
Yeah.
um, just to have again that transition from three,
Yeah.
right? And you could sort of it's still again fresh in your mind, and you could still pick up on like, okay, this is how they improve quality of life and different shortcuts. And here's where they stuck to Persona 5 roots. You could always skip cutscenes or at least
That's so
speed through them.
true. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you could skip them completely. I have Persona 5 Royal. Um, I again, I already played through P5. This is just like the upgrade, so I do skip through some scenes, um, just to I don't know get to the important or interesting parts.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, but I wouldn't put that pressure on yourself to decide what's right or wrong. It's just whatever your gut tells you.
That's true. Yeah. I think I'm definitely leaning towards just restarting it and speeding through some of the things that deserve to be sped through.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, again, those 70 hours that you have, are like 20 of them are just cutscenes.
that's so true. Yeah. Absolutely. And then, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You know what? Thank you. Thank you. I feel vindicated.
Yeah, it's pretty clear where I stand on that.
Sure. Yeah, so that's the end of my quick hits. Dan, I want to present you with a question. We don't have to
Sure.
answer it now, so let's sit on this question. And I think this will be
Okay.
something to think about and bring to the next show. I want to know your game of the year. It's as simple as
Oh,
that, but it
yeah.
doesn't have to be like a game that released this year. I'm just like something that you played this
Hmm.
year that you think deserves to be at your top. Maybe like top three, top three. Give us a top three or something like that. And I'll come up
Off the
with my
top
own.
of my head right now, I'm not sure. Stellar Blade.
Yeah,
I'm still chasing that feeling.
that
I'm
was a great
trying to
one.
find another game that has me so engrossed as Stellar Blade did,
Hmm.
where I was excited and I made intentional plans. This is the game I'm playing. I want to see more of it, right?
Yeah.
And so much that even after beating the game, I'm like, when's the sequel coming out, right?
Hmm.
When it's released on PC, I will probably try to play it on PC as well. I haven't seen the DLC just yet. Maybe I could do that when it comes out on PC. But that's going to be in the top three for sure.
Absolutely.
Um, the others, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I would have to do a deeper dive into my libraries on PC, Switch, and PlayStation
Hmm.
to really decide and like sort of differentiate what makes it to the top of the list.
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I may come back and say my other two games at the next episode, but as far as one of the top ones, I could confidently say Stellar Blade is up there.
No, I think honestly that might be like in my top three as well. That was such a great time. An
Yeah, yeah,
unexpectedly like fantastic time actually.
exactly. Yeah, for it to be so unexpected is like another like kudos point to them. So,
Mhm.
um, it's not easy to do and compete with some of the other games that are coming out.
Yeah,
Many of the good games that came out this past year.
absolutely.
So hats off to that
Absolutely.
development.
Yeah, we'll bring it to the next episode and maybe we can compare lists and all that.
Yeah, yeah, that would be interesting.
Dope stuff. Dope stuff. Well, Dan, I think we just did another episode of our little podcast we have. Thank you for joining me on this
Absolutely,
little
absolutely.
charade. Yeah, man. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us this episode. Go give us a follow on Instagram at Double Kick Games. We just conducted our first giveaway of a little retro handheld and had our first winner.
Yeah.
It was very fun, very very successful. So follow us over there if you are interested. Sometimes we give away fun little stuff. We're
Hmm.
always posting over there when episodes go live and all that. That's the best place to kind of just like figure out what's going on and all that stuff until we get some more things up off the ground and running. But thank you for joining us today. Um, Dan, thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to do it. We've come a long ways. So onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards. Everybody have a good night, evening, whatever you're doing right now, and enjoy your lives. Goodbye.
Hekki Allmo.
Hekki Allmo! Hair to hair, baby.